was that noise? What 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 was that noise?
Oh, my stomach! Oh, damn it! That's better.
Snake, it's showtime. Ocelot wants you.
You win.
Had enough. So, you're human after all. The torture will stop as I promised. But I'll take the woman in return. I'll have my fun with her before I kill her.
Meryl.
I hope you can still look at yourself in the mirror, my friend.
Damn, I caught a cold. That witch. She took my clothes.
I'm here. Where? Oh, jeez. He's coming back. See you later.
Wait.
What was that noise?
Damn!
What was that noise? no good. I can't do it. No, I can't do it.
If you win, you might still be able to save her. You could enjoy one brief moment of love before the end. If you cross this line, you'll fall. At this height, it will kill even you. Have at you, Snake!
I'll drive. Uh-oh, a surveillance camera. Oh, no keys. I got him. Let's go. I got it. Snake, jump in. Snake, hold on.
Yes, sir. The entire unit was wiped out. Those two are still alive. The Vector? Yes, sir. Fox Die should become activated soon. Right on schedule. Yes, sir. I recovered all of Rex's dummy warhead data. No, sir. My cover is intact. Nobody knows who I really am. Yes, the DARPA chief knew my identity, but he's been disposed of. Yes. Thank you. Goodbye, Mr. President.